morning, everybody. I'm a bit short of breath because I didn't expect this. But the emotion that totally consumes me, yes, for this honor, but also for how far we have come to make ECOSOC the People's Parliament. The progress in our continent for the past years is due to the work of the civil society that provides an alternate voice to make sure that the unheard are heard. So it is with great emotion that I thank you for this honor, to all of you. And it's amazing that I'm here with my sister, Dr. Karaja. As you know, I went on to become the chair of the high-level panel, and afterwards, she also became the chair of the high-level panel of the African peer review mechanism. So it means something to be recognized by your own, and I thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, mes chers amis. Je ne vais pas tenir des propos diplomatiques ni des titres. Je vais dire mes frères, mes sœurs, mes enfants de l'ECOSOC. C'est ça la société civile. Nous nous sommes battus ensemble. C'était une expérience qui était, on va dire, excitante, turbulente, mais passionnante. Et aujourd'hui, le mérite qu'elle a, c'est que nous nous retrouvons, après avoir fini nos mandats, c'est que partout, à travers l'Afrique, je sais que j'ai un frère et une sœur, ou une sœur, quelque part, à qui je peux faire appel, à qui je peux faire coucou, à qui je veux dire bonjour, mais je sais que nos cœurs continuent à communiquer malgré la fin des travaux. Je suis très émue parce que je ne m'attendais pas à ce geste. Je dis merci à mes enfants, à mes collaborateurs, à tous ceux qui ont contribué. Et effectivement, monsieur le bâtonnier Keremuna, qui a été le premier président, pour diverses raisons. Je disais, la première, c'est que bien sûr le Kenya est une destination de rêve. La seconde, c'est que pendant le parcours, tout le parcours de l'ECOSOC, chaque fois que nous étions coincés, que nous étions pris par le temps, pendant que nous faisions l'opérationnalisation des clusters, eh bien, et que nos réunions ne pouvaient se tenir dans tel ou tel pays, eh bien, on se tournait vers le Kenya, et le Kenya disait toujours oui et ouvrait grandes les portes. Que les autorités kenyanes soient remerciées pour cette hospitalité et cette ouverture. La troisième raison, et pas des moindres, c'est que lorsque l'ECOSOC est né, il est né dans la douleur, eh bien, nous avons pensé que le leadership devait être charismatique, crédible et performant. Et nous avons recherché parmi la société civile et nous avons sollicité le professeur Wangari Maathai, prix Nobel de la paix, que Dieu ait son âme, et qui a accepté de diriger la première phase de l'ECOSOC, qui était une assemblée intérimaire. Elle a accepté, malgré ses occupations nombreuses, puisqu'elle devenait prix Nobel de la paix, personnalité de la société civile africaine, très occupée aussi, la maladie l'avait rattrapée, mais malgré ça, elle a continué, elle est allée jusqu'au bout. Nous, de là où elle est, nous lui rendons hommage à sa mémoire, et je suis persuadée qu'elle doit être fière de ce que l'ECOSOC est devenu aujourd'hui. Ensuite, le relais a été pris par le bâtonnier Keremuna, qui a continué à mener la barque, suivi par le docteur Chilengi, que Dieu ait son âme, qui lui aussi n'a pas ménagé ses efforts pour que l'ECOSOC ait un secrétariat autonome qui permettait plus de mobilité, plus de fluidité et plus d'appropriation de ses ressources et de ses moyens. Secrétariat qui aujourd'hui, vous avez pu le constater, est véritablement performant. Il est à la hauteur des attentes que nous plaçons en lui, que la société civile place en lui, pour être proactif et mener à terme les ambitions de cet organe qui se veut la plateforme de communication, de contribution, de participation inclusive de la société civile. Alors notre propos aujourd'hui est d'interroger un peu, de faire un peu le bilan du cadre normatif ainsi que des dispositifs qui en découlent et dans quelle mesure elle peut accélérer l'intégration et la politique du continent en matière de révolution numérique. Et aussi voir le rôle crucial de la société civile dans son expansion, son appropriation et l'amélioration de ses performances au plus près des populations. À l'évidence, la pandémie de Covid-19 a eu un impact sur la prise de conscience par les citoyens et par les gouvernants de la nécessité, l'intérêt et l'urgence d'accélérer la transformation numérique. Vous savez tous pourquoi nous avons tous eu recours à travailler. C'était la seule chose qui nous avait sauvés, c'était la communication à distance. Quand bien même l'Afrique affiche une bonne croissance dans le développement de ses capacités, il n'en demeure pas moins que les valeurs de l'indice de développement et de l'administration en ligne sont faibles comparées à celles de l'Europe ou de l'Asie. On dira quand même que seuls Maurice, Seychelles, l'Afrique du Sud et la Tunisie ont atteint des performances records. Mais des pays africains ont aussi pris des initiatives et des mesures audacieuses. Ainsi, le Nigeria a mis en place un système d'information intégré sur la gestion financière du gouvernement. Pas mal. Maurice a créé une académie régionale de gouvernance électronique. Le Zimbabwe a mis en place un système de gestion financière du secteur public. L'Éthiopie a aussi connecté les caisses enregistreuses des points de vente au détail à l'administration fiscale directement, pas moyen de fuir. Donc, vous voyez, le numérique permet de contrôler et d'avoir les faits réels en temps réel. Alors, la stratégie de transformation de l'Union africaine, de la transformation numérique de l'Union africaine, s'articule autour notamment de l'appropriation par le continent des outils numériques modernes. À charge pour les États de mettre en place des stratégies nationales et de mettre en place la mise en œuvre en intégrant les priorités nationales aux indications régionales et mondiales, bien entendu. Parce que souvent, nos dirigeants prennent des décisions au niveau de l'organisation continentale, mais la mise en œuvre, souvent, met du temps à s'ébranler. Il y a lieu de citer des initiatives africaines comme l'initiative Smart Africa, créée en 2013, qui vise à l'amélioration de la responsabilité et l'efficacité par l'utilisation des technologies de l'information et de la communication pour la promotion du développement durable. Il y a aussi l'initiative For Digital Africa, qui est un programme conjoint de l'Union africaine et de l'Union européenne et de l'Union internationale des télécoms, qui s'engage à assurer l'accès efficace et abordable au haut débit sans fil à travers tout le continent. Elle cible 300 millions de personnes en plus connectées de cette manière. Mais nous voyons bien que lorsqu'on considère, par exemple, je passe à une autre étape de ma réflexion, comme je sais que les minutes s'écoulent, et nous prenons notre programme de développement qui est l'agenda 2063. L'agenda 2063 a bouclé sa première décennie, vient de finir sa première décennie de mise en œuvre. Et que voyons-nous? Est-ce que nous avons réalisé de faire taire les armes à l'horizon 2020? Non. Est-ce que nous avons atteint l'égalité de genre? Non. Aujourd'hui même se réunit une conférence de haut niveau sur le 20e anniversaire du protocole de Maputo, qui est censé impliquer les États dans la mise en œuvre de ce protocole pour atteindre la parité et l'égalité de genre. Mais on voit bien que encore le constat est que 11 États, même pas 20 ans après, n'ont pas encore ratifié. Beaucoup d'autres n'ont pas domestiqué, même s'ils ont ratifié. Ils n'ont pas domestiqué, ils n'ont pas mis en œuvre. Alors, il devient urgent que des stratégies globales soient formulées pour accélérer la mise en œuvre et la reddition des comptes. Parce que pourquoi nous ne l'avons pas fait? Il doit pouvoir y avoir des actes. Et là, c'est le rôle de la société civile, justement, que nous sommes. Alors, un seul point de réjouissance concerne la zone de libre-échange, qui est destinée à accélérer le développement. 0 minute, OK. Bon. Là, bon, 0 minute. Bon, je vais prendre 0 minute pour vous dire que la zone de libre-échange qui est censée accélérer l'intégration régionale, l'intégration économique et politique du continent, a été, bon, elle a réussi, le projet a connu une avancée, il a été mis au plan technique et institutionnel, ça a été ratifié, les accords ont été signés, le portail en ligne sur le commerce a été mis en place, le système panafricain de paiement numérique aussi, le tableau de bord de l'observatoire du commerce de l'Union africaine aussi, mais malgré cela, le marché reste inactif, totalement inactif, et il se heurte à des défis majeurs comme les barrières douanières et la circulation des personnes. Et ce n'est pas prêt d'être réglé. Alors, bon, 0 minute. Bon, il reste inactif. Alors, ce que je ne peux pas conclure avant de dire que quand même, c'est vrai que ici, le rôle de la société civile, c'est d'accélérer, c'est de continuer à faire pression, c'est continuer à maintenir auprès des gouvernants. Et là, l'outil numérique est vraiment, il accélère, il permet de rendre visible, rendre les revendications de la société civile et de faire pression. Regardez, dans les réseaux sociaux, on retrouve des revendications qui sont prises en considération parce qu'elles parviennent là où elles doivent parvenir. Donc la société civile peut appuyer, elle doit appuyer. Et ça, à cet effet, je lance un appel au secrétariat actuel et au leadership actuel de l'ECOSOC pour que les branches nationales qui ont un rôle important pour arriver auprès des communautés, que les branches nationales soient réactivées et continuent à être en œuvre. C'est vrai qu'il y a des États qui ne sont pas très chauds. Ils ne sont pas très chauds, ils tirent un petit peu la langue, mais nous sommes la société civile. Nous continuons à réclamer, nous continuons à revendiquer. Dans mon pays, dans notre dialecte, on dit « ça veut dire le persistant finira par vaincre le récalcitrant. Et c'est vrai, il faut continuer, il faut continuer à rêver, parce que le panafricanisme aujourd'hui, c'est l'avancée technologique, c'est l'esprit du panafricanisme. Si nous ne rêvons pas, nous n'irons pas à des objectifs ambitieux. Nous devons rêver. Si nos pères fondateurs n'avaient pas rêvé de l'indépendance, c'est que j'ai eu peur. Si nos pères fondateurs n'avaient pas rêvé de l'indépendance, on n'aurait pas eu l'indépendance. Si nous ne rêvons pas aujourd'hui de détenir la technologie, de la maîtriser, de la dominer, de la diffuser, eh bien, si nous n'en rêvons pas, nous n'y arriverons pas. Nous devons y arriver. Les pays qui nous dominent aujourd'hui, qui dominent le monde, sont ceux, ils n'ont parfois aucune ressource naturelle, mais ils dominent le monde. Et nous, qui possédons le maximum de ressources naturelles, nous sommes au banc, à l'arrière, et c'est eux qui décident pour nous. Donc, maîtrisons les nouvelles technologies, mais aussi sachons qu'il y a des dangers. Et ces dangers doivent être pris aussi en considération. Je n'irai pas plus loin, vous savez tous quels sont les dangers sur la paix et la sécurité, sur les droits de l'homme. Donc il y a un danger. Donc il y a un point qui a été intéressant récemment, c'est que l'Union africaine est en train de travailler sur une position commune pour mettre en œuvre, pour adhérer aux lois internationales sur la cybercriminalité. Donc ça aussi, c'est un point que nous devons suivre de très près, parce que si le nucléaire avait été conçu pour faire progresser l'humanité, il a été utilisé aussi pour la détruire. Donc restons vigilants et faisons en sorte que les garde-fous soient placés. Et ça, je pense que des politiques ont réfléchi à la question, mais nous devons soutenir une position commune pour que la voix de l'Afrique soit entendue dans les négociations mondiales et que les lois qui nous concernent soient aussi prises en considération. C'est l'Afrique que nous voulons et j'espère ne pas avoir abusé de mes 0 minutes d'extension.
I have to say good morning, and first, before even I start, ladies and gentlemen, at the PRC, in all, the one and only, and the one of the few that truly supported us and supported ECOSOC, please allow me to give it up and acknowledge His Excellency, Ambassador of the Republic of Mauritius, Mr. Raj, for his continuing support for ECOSOC. Please give it up for His Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. William Karu, Ms. Suad Eden Osman, Executive Director of the Coalition for Dialogue in Africa, friends and colleagues, GA members, standing committee members, friends and colleagues, members from various African civil society, and also we should recognize our some of the key civil society experts in the room. Ibrahim Khan, Open Society Foundation, our potential donor and key activities for next year. Friends and colleagues, member of the Kenyan ECOSOC International Chapter. Also, we have to recognize our first PO, Presiding Officer Eric Kamona. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Presiding Officer Denise, my dear friend and colleague. He promised me many times to teach me some Kenyan words, but I haven't even done. I wonder why. We'll talk about it later on. My dear sister, and one of the fascinating figure in North Africa, and she was a true lady. We call her an Iron Lady, but she is fantastic, adorable.
I wish to thank ECOSOC, both the leadership and secretariat, for associating CODA to their activities. We've been trying to do what we can together with my brother William. CODA is an initiative of the African Union, African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, and the UN Economic Commission for Africa, who were established about 13 years ago to serve as a platform for dialogues and debate, open, frank, inclusive dialogues and debates on matters pertaining to Africa's development and as defined by the African Union heads of states and government. The subject I wish to discuss today is of critical significance: illicit financial flows, or commonly called IFFs. These are funds illegally earned, transferred, or utilized, a menace that sources from diverse situations such as corruption, tax avoidance, tax evasion, money laundering, and criminal activity. But what is important is, why is it crucial to confront and combat IFFs? My intervention will be quite brief, but I just wanted to give a few reasons that should drive citizens, and are actually currently driving citizens around the world to rally against these illicit practices. Firstly, it is to protect against devastating economic loss. A substantial portion of the wealth is drained from economies due to illicit financial flows. This diversion hinders crucial funds from being used for socio-economic development and welfare projects, thereby hampering economic growth. People rise together to prevent such significant economic drain. Secondly, to purge corruption. Illicit financial flows often intricately linked with corrupt practices. Citizens' fight against IFFs is a step towards battling corruption, pushing for efficacious policies and laws that deter such activities. Next, it's to bolster social justice. Those economically disadvantaged bear the brunt of IFF's effects as they diminish funds earmarked for public services and social welfare. Thus, citizens voice their opposition to IFFs, striving to ensure enhanced livelihoods, justice, and equality in the fabric of society. Fourthly, it's about consolidating political accountability. Illicit financial flows commonly implicate high-level political figures unduly influencing decision-making. When citizens rally against IFFs, They also strive to bolster democratic processes and demand transparency and accountability in the political arena. Lastly, it is to secure sustainable development. IFF pose a formidable threat to countries' ability to achieve sustainable development goals, whether they are the ADGs or the SDGs, African Development Goals as defined by the Agenda 2063, or the SDGs, the UN 2030 Agenda, because these IFF erode the resources vital for development. Citizens therefore rise against IFF, not just for the sake of their present, but to safeguard the future of their countries and indeed their progeny. It is about getting value for our resources, and it's about being able to fund and finance our aspirations. Swelling in unison against the unlawful tide of illicit financial flows, we can steer our ship towards corruption-free governance, economic prosperity, social equality, political transparency, and sustainable development. It is not an easy task, but together it is undoubtedly a possible one. This afternoon we have a session. Koda is going to be leading the discussion. I'm glad to see my mentor on this, Barrister Ake Remuna, member of the high-level panel on illicit financial flows. We are somehow quite organized. There is also my brother, Steve Karangizi, former head of Legal Support Facility, the African Legal Support Facility. We have been trying to organize against the impact of illicit financial flows in the context of a consortium. I'm seeing some of the members. Trust Africa is here. Pan-African Lawyers Union is here. And many others who are not here are part of it. We hope to see you this afternoon. I thank you.
On behalf of the people of the Republic of Kenya, I do extend a warm welcome to all of you, and we say, Karibu Kenya, Karibuni Nairobi. Today, I stand before you to discuss a topic of great significance to the future of Africa's progress and prosperity, democracy, and the digital governance in Africa. In an era driven by technological advancement, it's essential for Africa to harness the power of digital technologies to achieve its goals, as outlined in Agenda 2063 and other continental aspirations. Moreover, this approach has significant implications for security, human rights, job creation, political stability, regional development, and the realization of Africa's comprehensive free trade agreement. Additionally, we need to take note of the contribution of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, to Africa, and how the continent can participate in the global space through digital technologies, not only as a consumer, but a participant in development of those technologies and setting the frameworks and policies and regulatory instruments to govern the same. Democracy, with its principles of inclusivity, transparency, and accountability, provides the foundations for good governance. By embracing digital technologies, governments in Africa can enhance their efficiency, responsiveness, and service delivery to the citizens. Digital governance can promote citizens' engagement, enabling them to participate actively in the decision-making process that shape their lives. And the advantage is it can also be done real-time through the digital platforms. This inclusivity provides or fosters trust, strengthens democracy, and ensures that the voices of Africa are heard and represented both at the local, continental, and even at the global platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, by leveraging digital technologies, African nations can streamline administrative processes, improve public service delivery, create an environment conducive to sustainable economic growth and development. And this is from healthcare to education, from infrastructure to agriculture. The integration of digital solutions empowers Africa to address its most pressing challenges and more efficiently and effectively. In Kenya, for example, we have begun the process of digitizing government services to ensure that our citizens can access government services from anywhere, anytime, just through their devices. As we stand now, we have exceeded over 5,000 services that Kenyan citizens can access online, setting a good pace amongst those nations digitizing in the continent. However, as Africa embraces digital governance, it must also prioritize cybersecurity, data protection, and other fundamental rights of its citizens. The increased reliance on digital infrastructure brings about new risks, such as cybersecurity, cyber threats, and data breaches. It's thus imperative for us in Africa to establish a clear cybersecurity frameworks, develop local expertise, and collaborate with international partners to ensure we safeguard critical infrastructure and protect citizens' personal data. One of these frameworks is the African Union's Malabo Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, which Kenya is taking steps to ratify in the shortest time possible. Digital governance must go hand in hand with the protection of human rights, ensuring that data privacy, freedom of expression, access to information are respected and upheld in the digital space. Furthermore, our pursuit for democracy and digital governance, we must remain vigilant against misuse of technology and guard against digital tyranny. It's crucial to establish firm and sound legal frameworks and institutions that protect citizens' rights, promote transparency, and safeguard against the abuse of power. The effective regulations of digital platforms and responsible use of emerging technologies will be vital in shaping a democratic and inclusive digital ecosystem. And this forum is one platform to help us build consensus towards adopting common position as a continent. It's therefore necessary for African government to have in place adequate legislative and regulatory frameworks that facilitate data privacy, data protection, cross-border data flows, and responsible use of new emerging technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the key benefits of embracing digital technologies and digital governance in Africa is the potential for job creation. The continent's youth, and we are proud of a very youthful talent capital in the continent, that the youth population is booming. Harnessing the power of technology can unleash the entrepreneurial spirit and creativity of our people. By nurturing a conducive environment for digital innovation and supporting tech startups, Africa can become a hub of technology-driven enterprises. This will help generate employment opportunities and drive economic growth in the continent, and also play a key role in supporting the global economic growth. Moreover, digital skills development and training programs can empower African youth with capabilities needed to succeed in this emerging digital age. Digital governance and utilization of emerging technologies can contribute to political stability, regional development, and progress of the continent. By promoting transparency and accountability, digital systems can reduce some of our biggest challenges as a continent, including corruption, and also enhancing trust in our government institutions across the continent. This in turn fosters political stability and creates an environment that attracts foreign investment. Additionally, the adoption of digital technologies will facilitate cross-border collaborations, regional integrations, enabling African countries to work together towards shared goals and aspirations. As we were discussing earlier on, we still have a challenge as a continent to connect easily, but digital platforms can give us a quicker way to integrate our continent and to have a more engaging communities across the continent. Regional development initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement can benefit from digital platforms that streamline trade processes, facilitate logistics, and enhance connectivity across the continent. Emerging technologies like AI and robotics can has tremendous potential for our continent's development. AI can be employed in various sectors including healthcare, agriculture, finance, and it will help to drive innovation, improve service delivery, and even entire productivity of our continent. Robotics, with its ability to automate tasks and augment human capabilities, can revolutionize industries and create new avenues for economic growth. Africa also can play a key role in the growth and development of these new technologies, including robotics and artificial intelligence, not only as users, but participants in the growth of these new technologies. Africa should actively thus invest in research and development and establish world-class research institutions that can help us foster growth in these areas and also help us foster collaboration between academia, industry, and build a workforce equipped with the necessary skills to harness the potential of emerging technologies. Africa's participation in the global space in the information age is intrinsically linked to its ability to leverage digital technologies. By embracing digital governance, Africa can bridge the digital divide, enhance connectivity, and ensure that its citizens have access to the global digital ecosystems. Kenya has embarked on reaping maximum benefits possible in the digital space by embracing two key areas: enhancing connectivity in the country, ensuring to the lowest levels of our administrative setup where our people live, the small centers are connected with broadband connectivity. And the second one is ensuring that all government services are digitized and building a digital government as a platform that will allow our citizens and our tech entrepreneurs to participate. This connectivity will open up opportunities for African businesses to expand globally, attract foreign direct investments, participate in international trade. Moreover, digital technologies can empower African voices on the global stage, enabling the continent's voice to be heard and also to contribute to the global conversation, especially in digital dialogues, and shape the narratives that define our world. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, democracy and digital governance are essential for Africa's progress and the achievement of Agenda 2063 and realization of Africa's digital agenda, as mentioned earlier here, and other continental aspirations. The integration of digital technologies brings about numerous benefits, including a formidable participation in the global space, which we must enhance and play even better. The contribution of emerging technologies like AI and robotics further amplifies Africa's potential for growth and innovation. By embracing digital governance and harnessing the power of digital technologies, Africa can pave the way towards a brighter future, realizing its aspirations and becoming a global leader in the digital age. It's now my pleasure to once again welcome you to this great city of Nairobi and the great country of Kenya, and encourage you, besides spending time in these great conversations, to explore this city visit some of interesting sites which are within a short distance, and experience the beauty of Nairobi. And as you participate in this great forum, it's now my pleasure to officially declare the Economic, Social, and Cultural, that's ECOSOC, second annual Citizens Forum here in Nairobi officially open.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to ECOSOC for the invitation. As Josh has said, my name is Bonolo Makale, and I'm from the Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria. But to just briefly highlight that the 2016 resolution on the right to freedom of information and expression on the internet by the African Commission on Human and People's Rights gives an explicit recognition to the importance of digital right protection, and that gives effect to Article 19. And Article 19 of the Charter speaks to the fact that every individual has a right to receive information, to express, and to disseminate their opinions within the law. I think it's important to then know that while most international policy frameworks are providing elaborate norms and may be conducive, they are mostly fragmented across various mechanisms, and the two professors have alluded to that. National frameworks for digital governance, for an example, are struggling, especially within the African context, as they are not only inadequate when they are provided for, but they are not implemented due to lack of follow-through and setting clear public policy visions. But I quickly want to move to democratization of the digital space. And I think it's important to highlight the fact that the struggle of democracy did not end with the attainment of independence. It is a continuous journey. And now that we live in this digital space, it is a journey that civil society should remain a steadfast companion to it. It is crucial that we ensure as a collective that the sun of democracy does not set on our beloved continent. And now more than ever, we speak about the usage of digital, of social media. We speak more about digital democracy, digital oppression, and further the ramification of misinformation and disinformation on democracy and its institutions, right? And of course, while we talk about this, we must highlight the idea of bridging the digital divide. There's a need for digital transformation and bridging the digital divide in Africa. Equitable access to technology and digital infrastructure can empower citizens to promote inclusivity and to enable greater participation in democratic processes. Of course, the lack of consistent access to electricity, for an example, continues to impede access to internet on the region. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, actually calls for universal access to reliable, affordable, and modern energy sources. Yet this is far from a reality in Africa, where it has been reported that 45% of African households resides further than 10 kilometers from nearest network infrastructures. And comparative to other continents, of course, with an exception of North America, the cost of mobile data in Africa is least affordable. However, even in comparison to North America, in November 2020, the ITU reported that since incomes in Africa are low, the cost of data is even more disproportionate. And therefore, the digital right has an important line. So we need to think about intersectionality of identities when we think about access to digital rights, where there are classes around, there are lines around class and economic lines owing to the disproportionate levels of development in urban, peri-urban areas and rural areas, considering that Africa is a continent of two economies. But beyond that as well, digital divide has gender elements. It also disproportionately affects women, as the professor said earlier. It also disproportionately affects people with disabilities. It disproportionately affects children who have difficulties in accessing internet and digital technologies, and therefore they are unable to engage in civic space. And of course, we do need to highlight the fact that, when we think about democracy and technology has in fact provided it has made a profound impact in the democracy around the world, provided new platform for civic engagements, provided new platforms for dissemination of news, commentaries, but also subject to censorship, surveillance, and exploitation of anti-democratic forces, which I will not get into. If we think about elections, oftentimes in Africa, we'll see cases of internet shutdown, which of course, does not allow for citizens to engage on the internet and have access to information during elections, but also to share their opinions around democracy and how the elections are playing out. And therefore, as I conclude, I want to highlight that technology has in fact provided space to amplify human rights on the continent through social media. In fact, statistics shows, particularly in Southern Africa, that Southern Africa has the second highest social media penetration on the continent. Approximately 41% of people in Southern Africa use social media, and placing it as the second highest social media on the continent. And yet the increased use and access of social media has subsequently given a rise to what we call hybrid activism. You'll remember during lockdown and during COVID-19, when there were cases of human rights violations in Zimbabwe, cases of human rights violations in Nigeria with NSARS and so on and so forth, there was a great sense of solidarity on social media where the African continent, and if you may call it activists and human rights defenders, supported movements around hashtag Zimbabwe Lives Matter.
Ladies and gentlemen and other senior civil society colleagues who are in the room, let me also take the opportunity to acknowledge high-level representatives from the African Development Bank, World Bank, and many other regional and international organizations that are in attendance, members of the press, our key stakeholders, and that is the civil society organization that are here this morning. As we say in Kenya, Jambo, Habari Zenu. Welcome to Kenya and welcome to your forum, the Citizens Forum. When I look at the gathering in this meeting room, which by way is the All of Africa, it is really inspiring, packed with a blend of experience, energy, and passion for a better Africa, for the Africa we all want. I must admit that I am quite moved. It is not every day that we can bring together such diverse constituency under the same roof, especially looking at the various competencies in terms of organizational participation and expert participation that we have in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me again to welcome you to the second edition of the ECOSOC Citizens Forum, which is now and will be known as ECOSOC Annual Citizens Forum. Before I delve into my speech, allow me to just give you some background as how it all evolved. In May 2022, the idea to hold the Citizens Forum first germinated as Zambia, which is also the home of ECOSOC, was hosting the fourth media coordination meeting. We organized the first Citizens Forum on constitutional changes of government in Africa. The success was far beyond our expectation. This further led to a unanimous call from the civil society to make the Citizens Forum an annual event. So we are pleased to announce that this event has now been branded, or rather rebranded, as the ECOSOC Annual Citizens Forum, and each year it will be organized on the margin of the media coordination meeting with the contemporary theme as per the public demands. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ECOSOC is the civil society arm of the African Union. It has an advisory mandate and was specifically established to connect the African citizenry to the African Union. The topic of this forum is of utmost importance to us as the African Union, but also to each and every citizen on this continent. Good governance and democracy have always monopolized debates across the world, but the novelty of this initiative lies in bringing technology to the dialogue. Democracy and digital governance have emerged as critical components in shaping the political landscape of our continent, offering new opportunities for citizens' participation, transparency, and accountability. Let me share very pertinent findings by two eminent academics, namely Domingo and Schifferer, in their publication, Digitalization and Democracy is Africa's Governance, Charter Fit for the Digital Era. And I quote, "In today's world, digital technologies offer unprecedented opportunities and challenges. They have the potential for positive transformation, but when improperly or maliciously used, they can fuel divisions within and between countries, increase insecurity, undermine human rights, and exacerbate inequality. This will surely set the tone for the day." The upholding of democratic values as enshrined in the Africa Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance, ACDEC, is only possible where governments are open and easily be accessed by the citizens. On this, we may eventually evolve to be netizens. However, ladies and gentlemen, the reality is otherwise. Such access is often strained due to limited platforms for engagement between citizens and government. The advent of innovative communication through digital technology has deeply changed how societies and their governments interact, affecting both democratic processes and the ways citizens engage in political issues. Given the growing global importance of digital technology, it is essential to explore their potential in contributing to the advancement of democracy and identifying how these potentials can be harnessed to facilitate inclusive and participatory development. This exploration must also take into consideration the threat that digital technologies pose to democracy and identify the safeguards that must be put in place to ensure that digital technologies are not used to the detriment of democracy across the African continent. Let me bring you to some perspectives from the African Union on democracy and digital governance. The continent continues to deal with issues such as unequal access to political participation, limited civic space, and a need for stronger democratic institutions and electoral processes. Efforts to strengthen democracy in Africa are ongoing, and the African Union plays a significant role in advocating for democratic governance, promoting human rights, and addressing governance challenges. The key ways in which the AU plays this significant role is through the development of legal and policy instruments which stipulate the standard that member states must adhere to. The primary democracy-related legal instrument in the African Union is the ACDEC, which came into force in 2012 and has been ratified by 38 AU member states. It is important to note that when the ACDEC was adopted in 2007, it was a progressive legal document that identified and addressed some of the continent's main governance challenges, such as civil space, civil participation, inclusion and representation of women and minority groups, free and fair elections, and unconstitutional changes of government. At that time, internet and mobile phone penetration was very low in Africa, with only 5% of the continent's population being online. However, this situation has changed significantly since then, as social media platform has become popular, although admittedly, the continent lags in terms of global mobile coverage. In light of the context prevailing when the ACDEC was adopted, it is no wonder that it did not anticipate nor address the opportunities and risks to democracy that digitalization presents today. A guiding principle of the ACDEC is effective citizens' participation in democratic processes and building democratic institutions. Digital technologies provide additional avenues for government to expand and facilitate citizens' participation and involve them in public institutions, which enhances the democratic space or the democratic processes in the country. Another principle that is critical to democracy and is contained in the ACDEC is the promotion of gender equality. Digital technologies enable women to increase their participation in politics, although it must be noted that some women remain disenfranchised because of the digital divide, and those that publicly participate through digital platforms are often subjected to harassment. Therefore, while ACDEC admittedly does not fully address the role of digital technology in advancing democracy, when read together with some recent AU legal and policy documents, it makes provision to fill the existing gap, though not fully. Such document includes the AU Digital Transformation Strategy. The strategy highlights the importance of leveraging digital technologies to enhance governance, increase citizens' participation, and promote socioeconomic development. It also emphasizes on the need for policies and infrastructure that ensure digital inclusion for all African citizens. What are the opportunities and threats to democracy posed by digital technology? As much as I would love to elaborate on this, in the interest of time, I will leave it to the expert. But to name a few, digital technologies have revolutionized civic engagement by providing platforms for individuals to voice their opinions and participate in public discourse. Social media platforms and online forums enable citizens to engage with political leaders, express their concerns, and advocate for change. Digital tools such as online petitions and crowdsourcing platforms empower citizens to organize and collaborate on various issues, amplifying their collective voice and fostering grassroots movement. Digital technology also contributes to the advancement of democracy by promoting transparency and accountability in governance. Let me conclude by indicating the coin analogy, why digital technology does not indeed have the potential to contribute to the advancement of democracy as outlined above. It must be noted that it also poses some significant threat to democracy. One of the significant challenges posed by digital technology is the rapid spread of disinformation and misinformation. Social media platforms and online news outlets have become breeding grounds for the dissemination of false information, propaganda, and conspiracy theories. Governments use digital technology to spread information and disinformation and propaganda, influence public opinion, distorting democratic discourse. Cyber attack, hacking, data breaches, etc. Even the AU was recently hacked, and it actually disrupted the entire operations of the African Union. I am sure this year's forum will help to shed light and make us all more informed but about the opportunities and threats posed by digital technology. Let me conclude once again by thanking you all for joining us, especially all those who have traveled from various parts of the world by even self-funding and self-sponsored, and having your participation in this particular meeting in Nairobi. This dialogue, unprecedentedly in terms of scale, breadth, and depth, is bringing hundreds of stakeholders from African leaders, African Union Commission officials, representatives of African Union member states, African civil society organizations, the UN agency, development partners, institutions, media, and other relevant stakeholders across the continent. This is a unique opportunity for African civil society and relevant players to contribute and be part of the big conversation on democracy and digital governance in Africa. I want to thank you for your audience, and let's continue the discussion. Thank you.
A democratic process must be a process that is empowering to others. And if it's not empowering to others, then you would have a challenge with a democratic process. It must be inclusive to individual members. They must feel, not only feel, but they must realize that they are part of decision making. And if these normative framework do not talk to that, if they are ivory towers, they do not talk to the men in the street, they do not talk to the men in the remote area in Kenya, then there would be normative frameworks that are there but not relevant, not user-friendly for ordinary peoples within our communities. They should allow voters to make an informed decision. They should be able to allow voters to make an informed decision. We've heard here around the number of countries that have adopted initiatives to respond to these normative frameworks. This is still not sufficient, as you would see that there is no consistency in terms of their adoption. We need to move to a stage where there is consistency. And all of us sitting here have a role to play in ensuring that these normatives are getting to that particular. Digitalization creates a collective agenda, creates an agenda that is shared, allows us to be able to interact and share information and data easily amongst ourselves, amongst different countries, which helps in enhancing democracy, which helps in understanding new ways of addressing democratic issues and engaging in democratic processes. And if we don't use that opportunity, we will then have failed in ensuring that digitalization is used in an advantageous spirit. Also, it becomes very important for one to know that a framework that is not reflective of the community that is meant to create an enabling environment in, that framework would cease to address the opportunity that it should address. So it should be able to reflect our shared or collective common goal as this particular session. And if it doesn't do that, then it fails that determined or that key element of collective agenda that we want to achieve with this. Of course, there is a dark side of digitalization, and we need to mitigate risk. There is no doubt that there is a dark side of digitalization. There is misinformation that happens with digitalization, and we need to talk to that. Our frameworks needs to, how do we mitigate against those issues, because they are going to happen, and we need to be able to put processes in place to mitigate. As in 1961, Jake F. Kennedy indicated that a plethora of legislation, a plethora of frameworks, a plethora of rules does not really help with deterring people from doing what is wrong. But we need to include in these frameworks, when you interpret them, when we implement them, we need to talk about values. What are the values that we espouse to have as a continent? What are the values we espouse as individual countries? And that should be infused in these normative frameworks that we talk about. The issue of integrity, the issue of transparency, responsiveness, policies that are adaptive to changing needs of communities, because they are changing needs of communities. And if they don't talk to that, then we are going to have problems and 0 minutes. So one should be, I'll finish now, and one should be able to adapt to that, to ensure that your normative frameworks talk to that. Normative frameworks by their nature should be living documents. If they fail to be living documents, the recurring dark side of digitalization will not be able to manage it properly if they do not become living documents. By living documents, I mean that we should on regular basis review them. We should on regular basis look at their relevancy or whether they're still relevant or not as and when we deal with these issues. And that would help us. Maybe let me run to my conclusion. When one talks about governance, must remember that you have a space in terms of political aspects and a space in terms of economic aspects. And in order for us to be able to use the public resources effectively and efficiently, address the issue of rights and obligations, the inevitable interest of young people in comparison with older people within communities, we would have to look at this framework and review some of them. Had we have time, we would actually look at one or two of them and say, whether are they covering, whether are they looking at the collective aspiration of the citizenry in our continent, young, old in our continent, women and men, young people, people with disabilities, and so forth and so forth. And we have to be able to do that to then reflect honestly on these frameworks that we talk about. I think there is a great opportunity with the frameworks that we have. In conclusion, that they create space for us to be able to trade, not only freely but easily amongst us ourselves as Africans, but also reduce the issue of boundaries that we have, constraints that have been put in these trade agreements. Those would be easily dealt with if we have digitalization. I therefore think that while there are risks, we need to have strategies to mitigate against those risks, and the mitigating strategies would have to be in place and look at the adaptive nature of each country in doing that. I thank you very much, Chair. Thank you.